Welcome to Literary AF Podcast.
Bonjour, mon frères and mon sisters.
Sir, whatever. French.
Welcome to Literary AF Podcast. It's a podcast about, you guessed it, car repair. Danny, what are we talking about today?
Not cars, unfortunately.
Okay.
I don't know anything about cars. So.
Unfortunately.
We do know the wheels go on the bottom, and everything else we're not sure about.
Yeah.
No, this is called Literary AF. We're talking about books. My name is Sheldon.
I'm Danny.
I'm Arlene.
And today we are picking up with the second part of our Hunger Games trilogy.
Yes, we are. It's it's catching fire today.
Us or the book that we're talking about?
Well,
I thought you meant like the trend of like our Hunger Games.
I mean, I have had a fever for the last week, so maybe also me.
Technically catching fire.
Yes.
We should address first off. So we got a comment last time about how people thought we hated Hunger Games.
Yeah.
And that's actually not true at all.
No.
I really like the first book.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's like because we'd watched the movie before, and I think we were all like kind of tired, not in good moods. So maybe we just like our negativity seeped in.
Came off a little grumpy.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not crazy about the first movie. Like, if we're comparing book to movie, I like the first book a lot, and I don't like the first movie very much.
Yeah, I think comparing the book to the movie, I think was a big mistake for this because the movies miss a lot of, I think, what makes the Hunger Games trilogy special, and they focus a lot on the action and the fanfare, which it makes sense. It makes a good film, but it doesn't necessarily capture the same charm as a book.
Yeah, and it's hard to like. The things about the first Hunger Games book that I really like are like, I like the survival aspects, and I love like, because it's like a dystopian future, but it's also like, Katniss is kind of like regressing to like a more primitive way of life of like living in the woods and like learning to survive with nothing but like a bow. And to me, that's like a really cool thing in like a YA novel. Yeah, so I want to say I actually really like the first book. This one, slightly less, I'd say.
I just really like Katniss as a whole, as a character. I like the way that she's presented as this really kind of cool, capable archer, kind of hunting and supporting her district and the people that she cares about and her family. But she's also this extremely damaged, extremely fragile person, and I like that about her. I like that she's upsetting to read about a lot because I really feel for her as a person.
Yeah.
And
I think last time I'm like kind of without thinking, like it just kind of popped in my head like that she was psychotic, that she didn't have empathy, but I'd say more that she's almost like animalistic, where there's like she's solely focused on survival to the point where she doesn't understand some of the like more human stuff. Like she doesn't get the social game at all because she's all about the survival game.
Yeah, and to me that's Katniss as a character. She's just always, her number one priority is survival, and that in itself is instinctive though, because I mean, if you're in a situation where you're fighting to survive at every turn and anything that you do or say could be like somebody close to you could die or you could die or something terrible could happen, you're not really worrying about things like your clothes or your hair or who likes you. You're really concerned about bigger picture stuff.
Like whether you should date Peeta or Gale. Okay,
Yes.
let's Danny, you recently read Catching Fire.
I started it last night and I finished it this morning.
Okay, so we are going to let you do a quick plot summary.
Alright, I've been sick for the last week, so my voice is kind of iffy, but I'll try my best.
I got you, girl.
What, you're gonna do it then, or?
No, I mean, as in,
No, emotional support. We're not actually going to...
I feel you. I feel for your plight.
We're not going to physically help you at all. This is all you.
So this book picks up, I guess, a couple months after the end of the last book. Everybody's returned to District 12, and Katniss's family, and just Peeta. Actually, Peeta didn't bring his whole family to live with him. on Victor's Row, which is like the fancy house for all the people who win the Hunger Games, which is solely populated by Hey Mitch and Peeta and Katniss.
Yeah, because District 12 does not have a good record.
They start off by going on a Victor's tour, which means they travel to all the districts, and it's like I guess, look at me, I won the Hunger Games kind of thing.
Mm-hmm.
And,
which is really messed up if you think about it, because it's like rubbing it in all the other districts' face, like, hi, your kids died.
Yeah, I killed your children.
Yeah.
Look at me, I'm the best.
My favorite part is that they like bring the families of the dead kids so that you can be like, hey, look in the faces of the people who you kill, whose loved ones you just killed. Look at them.
Sorry, I shot an arrow through your son's head. Sorry.
So they start in District 11, which was Rue's district. Before that, she meets with President Snow, who's like,
you made a big mistake, girl.
And your fake relationship is, I guess, people can see through it, and they interpreted their suicide pact at the end of the last book as like a fuck you to the Capitol, and that's starting to incite like sparks of rebellion throughout all the districts. And President Snow is like, you need to fix this. You need to fix it right now. And you have to make your relationship with Peeta as believable as possible, so people actually just think you're two idiot kids who are in love and tried to do something stupid. And he threatens to kill Katniss's family and Gale, and basically just everybody that she loves is in trouble if she can't pull this off, kind of thing. Meanwhile, like, she and Peeta haven't really been talking at all, because at the end of the last book, she's like, no, bro, I'm just acting. And Peeta is like, what?
Oh, no.
And Katniss like, yeah, it was just a show. And he's kind of heartbroken. So, yeah.
And I mean, Katniss at this point is pretty, I don't know, isolated, we'll say emotionally, because
she's
Gale
a
is
stone cold bitch.
Well, kind of.
Yeah.
I meant more that Gale is working in the mines now, because he's 18 and that's what you do. And so she's by herself a lot. She goes hunting, but it's alone. And they see each other once a week or whatever, but it's like she's really just going through it by herself.
So they go on the Victory Tour, which starts in Rue's district. And they have like these speeches that are written by the Capitol for them to say, and they go kind of off script. And Peeta like offers to give the families of the victims like a month of their winnings for every year for the rest of their lives, kind of thing. And Katniss has like a very emotional speech about Rue. And at the end of the speech, an old man does like this 3-fingered salute, which I forget what the actual meaning behind the salute is.
It's a District 12 thing. They do it at like funerals and stuff like that. So like they did it, and so yeah, the guy's kind of repeating a thing that Katniss did in the arena.
Right. And they basically get ushered off the stage as fast as possible. And Katniss goes back outside because she left her bouquet of flowers. And when she goes outside, she can see that the peacekeepers, which are like the Capitol's guards, who are kind of controlling the district, they've like pulled the old man who did the salute up onto the stage and like shoot him in the head before she gets pulled back through the doors. And then they let Peeta in on their plan, like to try to convince people that they're actually in love. And Peeta's like, oh no, giving them our winnings kind of, and we're in more trouble now.
He gets really upset too, because he's like, why don't you two tell me anything? I hecked up real big. So yeah, it's I feel sorry for Peeta in most situations. I love him. Go on. Sorry.
The rest of the Victory Tour is kind of just skimmed over. They don't do a whole lot aside from dinners at night and speeches and holding hands and kissing when they have to, kind of thing. And then they go home. And
they go home and...
No, they don't. The last stop is in the Capitol. And they go to a party at President Snow's mansion. Mm-hmm. And there's like a dance, and she meets...
Plutarch Heavensby.
Yeah, Plutarch, who is the new head game master for the games. And she sees President Snow, who basically gives her like a kind of head shake, and she knows that there's like they're screwed. There's nothing they can do. And then they go home, and she's like, just, everybody I know is gonna die. We should run away. With Gale, and the plan is to take Gale and their families, and Peeta and Haymitch, and just run away.
But this is not a great plan for
No.
many obvious reasons, and the most obvious being that in the time they were gone, the capital has sent a new head peacekeeper to District 12, and he is now cleaning house. He's like putting people in the stocks, and they're really starting to like clamp down on the district. And kind of comes to a head for Katniss when they catch Gale with wild turkey, I believe it is, after she and Gale were just hunting in the woods, and they flog him within an inch of his life. And Katniss ends up taking him back to her house to her mom and Prim to patch him up. But it's very clear that everything's changed, and the fence is now electrified, so they can't be sneaking out into the woods anymore. So escaping the district is, if not a pipe dream, going to be very difficult at this point.
So, just curious, in the movie for Catching Fire, it's like Plutarch Heavenby's idea to crack down on the districts, and like, is that in the book, or was that added in the movie?
That was added to the movie.
Okay.
Yeah, actually, that's not implied at all in Catching Fire. They kind of don't show any of those scenes with Snow and Plutarch.
Okay.
Yeah, so. In fact, kind of the opposite is implied, but I won't get into that too much. That's stuff in Mockingjay is kind of that meeting between Katniss and Plutarch is significant for several reasons. But after Gale gets beaten in the square, they're kind of cowed and kind of, well, no, looks like we can't do that. And they start planning Peeta and Katniss's wedding, because this is, as everything else, kind of a capital farce. And during the planning of her wedding, the next Hunger Games is announced. And this one is what they call a quarter quell, which happens every 25 years. And usually it has some extra special horror. And I can't remember what it was the year, or the last 25 years before then. Was that the one where they sent double the tributes?
I don't know, but apparently that's the one Haymitch won.
Yeah, that was the 50th quarter quell.
Yeah, okay, good. All right, so he won the last quarter quell. And at this point, too, I started making notes about all the stuff I knew about Haymitch, too, because I thought it was really interesting, because I'm like, no, I want to hear more about Haymitch.
Yeah.
I want to hear more about Haymitch winning. But yeah.
Suzanne Collins, if you're listening, for the next prequel book, because I know you've announced there's going to be a prequel, Haymitch's Hunger Games, make it happen. I want to read it.
The prequel's already been announced. Like, it was announced 2 days ago.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's the 10th Hunger Games.
Yeah.
Yeah, so I'm saying if she makes like a sequel
Another
to the prequel.
one, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm really wondering if it ties into the trilogy at all, honestly, because the 10th Hunger Games is a real long time ago. And I mean, they have a few really old victors for previous Hunger Games, so how far back do those go? But
Is Megs old enough?
Yeah,
Maybe.
Megs is in her 80s, I think.
So
Yeah.
it might be the Megs Hunger
It
Game.
could be Megs.
Also, there might be a young President Snow, who's like the
Oh.
game master or something. I could see that.
Oh, interesting.
Okay, sorry,
But
we're off topic.
Yes. But yeah, so they announced the quarter quell, and surprise, surprise, their new twist is that the new tributes are going to be reaped from the existing victors.
Which is such a gut punch. Like, in the movie when they make that announcement, like, you could just see, like, Jennifer Lawrence's, like, expression just, like, sink. It's so good.
I mean, it was kind of a gut punch, like, especially too, because for Katniss, who is the only female victor in District 12, she's going.
Yeah.
Like, that's her. But, yeah, so that ends up...
Especially since, like, the one kind of privilege of winning a Hunger Games is that you never have to do the Hunger Games again. And now it's like, actually, guess what? Bad news, kids.
You thought you won, but you didn't.
So, obviously, it's Katniss. And then there's some talk about she wants Haymitch to volunteer for PETA, but if Haymitch's name gets picked, then there's nothing stopping PETA for volunteering for Haymitch, which is what happens. And then they head to the Capitol.
PETA does he throws away all of Haymitch's alcohol, and he makes everybody do like training all day, every day to basically get everybody beefed up for the competition. He's the only one who's like, we gotta do this, we gotta, get ready and fight, and we're gonna do this. Well, Haymitch is just being Haymitch, and Katniss is like given up.
Yeah.
And they get on the train and they head to the Capitol, and it's the same routine as the last one. They have like this whole interview segment, and they do these training things.
I find this one's a little cooler with because the other characters I think are a little cooler.
Yes.
Like Finnick.
Yeah.
Finnick O'Dare, my hero.
Yeah. Good old Finnick.
Megs,
and there's
Megs.
Wyrus and BT.
Yeah.
And there's more characters.
Joanna?
There's Joanna, yeah. And yeah, like the returning victors are all like real characters.
Yeah.
It feels like, whereas in the last book it was like, there's unnamed kid 1 and unnamed kid 2, and that's Foxface, who doesn't have a name either.
Generic scared child.
Yeah, this little
small,
boy.
Scared child.
Yeah.
But this one is like, no, these are all like real people, and they're all like have their own personalities, and they're kind of fun.
Yeah.
Also, during the interviews, the PETA announcement.
Oh, yeah, well, the interviews themselves, like, all of the interviews are really good. I like them better in the movie. I watched the first half of the second movie.
Yeah.
Though the interviews in the movie, I feel like, were even better.
Yeah.
But basically what happens is most of the returning victors, when they go out and do their interview, they do what they can, I guess, to get the sympathy of the Capitol.
Yeah.
They start being like, well, I've done this once before, and you guys said I wouldn't have to do it again, but here we are. And
even the District 1 or District 2, like the career ones, they're like crying because it's a brother and sister, and they're like, we don't want to kill each other. And like, I thought that was so like such a solid moment.
Yeah. And everybody does their own like, well, we shouldn't be here again. What are you guys doing?
Yeah.
And then Katniss comes up, and she goes out in a wedding dress, because she and PETA said that they were getting married in an attempt to make the people believe of their relationship. Mm-hmm. And then the quarter quell happens, and the wedding doesn't happen. So Katniss actually goes up in her wedding dress that Cinna prepared for her. And she does... I really like this moment. In the movie, I had goosebumps through this whole segment.
Yeah.
She goes out in her wedding dress, and she talks to Caesar Flickerman. And then she spins, and her wedding dress just burns away in these flames and is replaced with a black feather dress.
Yeah, the
Mockingjay.
Mockingjay
It has wings on the back of the dress, and it turns into a Mockingjay. And I thought that was so good.
Yeah.
And
then it's immediately followed by PETA.
If PETA comes out and he's like, this sucks, and we secretly got married because we weren't going to have a chance otherwise, and also Katniss is pregnant.
And then, in the movie, the crowd starts booing.
Yeah,
and
it happens in the
good.
book, too. The book basically breaks out in a riot, and then the lights in the theater get cut, and everybody gets shuffled away really fast.
And all the tributes, like, hold hands, like, just show solidarity.
Yeah,
it's
everybody
really good.
holds hands and stands up with their hands. Yeah.
So let's go through the games quickly, because...
The games are the last 100 pages of the book, which is the biggest disappointment.
Yeah. I will get into that later for sure.
Yeah, for sure.
So... The way the map is arranged, it's like a clock with 12 different sections.
This was so cool. This was my favorite part of this book, was this map.
Do you remember what they are? I know one is like the poison fog.
Yeah, there's the 12 o'clock is a lightning cloud.
Lightning strike.
Then there's the...
Blood rain.
The blood rain. There's the toxic mist.
There's the monkeys.
There's the monkeys. There's the bugs. There
tidal
is
wave.
the tidal wave.
The Jabberjays.
They are Jabberjays.
Oh, that's right.
And there's Beast. Undescribed Beast ripped somebody to shreds at one point.
Okay. Yeah, so like each area of the clock face is like its own little thing.
Yeah.
And then when that hour strikes, then whatever, if you're in that area, you're basically torn to shreds by whatever's in that area.
Yes.
I don't remember. Like, so this one is a little different where it's not like Katniss on her own or anything. Like, they're just working in groups the whole time.
Well, there's Before she leaves, Haymitch is like, remember who your enemies are. And then they separate and she goes off to do the thing.
Oh, and also Cinna.
And Cinna,
Oh, yeah.
when she's in the tube like doesn't move and she's stuck in there.
Yeah.
And then some peacekeepers come in and just beat the shit out of Cinna and then
Yeah,
drag
right
him
in front
off.
of her while
Yeah.
she can't. And that's another super good moment in the movie.
Yeah. And then she pops up and they're standing in this basically like ocean.
Yeah.
And she swims out to the cornucopia and she grabs a bow, she grabs a backpack, and she runs into Finnick,
Yeah.
who is wearing a gold bracelet that belonged to Haymitch, which is kind of like the symbol of Haymitch saying you should trust this guy.
Yeah, Haymitch he was really kind of emphasizing, like, hey, you need to make allies
Yeah.
in these victors, and, you know, like, they're good people, like, you got to do it for strategic reasons, like, do it.
Yeah.
So
So it's her and PETA.
Finnick and
Mags
Mags
is the old lady.
all group up together.
But they're also like, well, I guess they meet up with Wyrus and Beatty and Joanna later.
Yeah, that's after the fog stuff. Yeah.
That's all their kind of friends. So first is the fog.
Yeah, they are camping in the woods and...
First is the force field.
They're dying slowly.
Oh, PETA kills himself because he's an idiot.
Oh, yeah!
So
Yeah.
they just keep walking in one direction, and then PETA crashes into an invisible force field wall and gets electrocuted to
And
death.
his heart stops, and then Finnick has to CPR, resuscitate him.
My absolute favorite is that Katniss turns around and he's like, and then Finnick is kissing PETA. And I'm like, no,
Yeah.
no, honey. That's not what he's doing.
So that happens.
And Katniss is like, I couldn't even save him for an hour. Like, her whole point of the game is to save PETA and make sure he lives. And then he just dies immediately.
By walking into an invisible wall.
Katniss, girl, it's not your fault at this point. This wasn't your fault.
So they find the force field, and then PETA dies, and then he gets revived. And then they camp out for a bit, and the fog rolls in.
Yeah.
And they run out through the fog, and it's like... It's paralyzing them as they're running.
Yeah.
And
nerve gas, I believe, because it
something
stops
like that.
them. Basically, just stops your bodily functions.
The
You can't
movie,
move,
it
can't-
just, as soon as it touches their skin, it turns into blisters, which, like, I guess makes more sense visually, but, like, I'm just like, what is this gas?
The book describes it as like tendrils, and like the dew that's coming off of the tendrils is like seeping into their skin.
Okay.
And it's like half of PETA's face like starts drooping, and he stops being able to run properly.
Yeah.
So Finnick gives Mags to Katniss.
Yeah.
And because Finnick has been carrying Mags because she's like a 90-year-old lady. And
his previous mentor, so
his previous mentor, yeah.
he really likes her.
He does, yeah. And he picks up PETA, Katniss picks up Meg, and they run until, like, they can't carry Meg anymore.
Yeah.
And Megs is like, okay, peace, and then just walks into the fog. Like, if you ever saw Dante's Inferno,
Yes.
it's basically the old lady in the boiling water, but it's a lady and some gas fog.
Oh my gosh.
That's the first thing that comes to mind whenever I think about
Good
that.
reference.
Yeah.
Solid reference.
Yeah.
So that happens.
And then they go down to the center of the clock thing and hang out on the beach. And
they go past that area and then they run to the monkeys. And the monkeys drive them towards the beach.
Yeah, they run into monkeys, and that's where, on the beach, at that point, is when they find BT and Wyrus, who are covered in blood.
Well, Joanna comes out of the woods with BT and Wyrus.
You're right, yes.
And she's like, they told me to bring these guys or you weren't going to trust me, so here's BT and Wyrus.
Oh, and there's also the morphling, too.
Oh, yeah, there's the drug addicts. She dies saving PETA from the monkeys.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
I remember there was a person who was hiding in the woods who just bursts out and then like instantly dies, and I can't remember what it was about.
Yeah, she was protecting PETA. She died saving PETA from the monkeys.
So then they're all on the beach, the careers show up, they
kill Wyrus. But this is like Wyrus is the one who figures out that they're on a clock.
That's right.
And she's just like TikTok, and everybody's like, yeah, what Wyrus, whatever, TikTok, and then Katniss goes, oh, TikTok, like a clock. We're on a clock. And Wyrus is like, yes. And they figure it out. And then Wyrus immediately dies.
Yeah.
It made me laugh. It's not funny. It made me laugh, though, because, like, when I'm reading this book, I was like, TikTok, she's obviously described, 12 bongs. Okay, it's a clock. Okay, everybody in the arena.
Yeah, waiting for everyone to figure it out.
Yeah.
I remember in the movie, it's like so obvious that they're standing on a clock face because just the way the like lines are arranged.
Yeah.
And then TikTok, TikTok, and everyone's ignoring her. I'm like, you guys.
Yeah, I feel like that doesn't work, like, visually.
Yeah.
Like, the surprise of the book, where you're like, yeah, this thing's kind of segmented, weird. And then, oh, TikTok, oh, I get it.
Yeah.
Whereas, like, the movie's like, you're standing on a clock face.
Obviously. Yeah, so
So they fight the careers, Wirus dies. BT comes up with a plan to
electrocute the other careers.
the careers, yeah. And so they go into the 12 to 1 o'clock section of the clock where the thunderstorm happens.
There's also a brief moment where Katniss wants to run away with PETA here.
Yes. Yep.
And he's like, no, we have to work with these guys.
Yeah.
And she's like, well, what happens after we kill the careers? They're going to kill us.
Yeah.
But I would say that this is probably the first very genuine moment of Katniss having real feelings for PETA.
Yeah.
This is the moment she realizes that she actually cares for him.
Yes. And so, yeah, I mean, it's a very short moment, but yeah,
that's why I want to just quickly bring it up, because it's like, I feel like it's an important PETA.
Yeah, he gives her the pearl, and then the pearl is like her token.
The pearl, that's right.
Yep. So then they set up this plan to electrocute the water on the beach, which will, I guess they want to try to kill the careers. And when BT and PETA are like setting up the tree that gets struck, because the same tree gets struck every time at midnight. Yeah. They're wrapping the wire around it, and Katniss and Joanna are going to go down to the beach to put the wire in the water, I guess.
Yeah, something like that.
Something like that.
Honestly, this was not very clear to me in the books. I had a lot of trouble envisioning what was going on here.
Yeah, when they do the twist after, it's like, okay, that makes more sense than what their original plan was.
Yeah.
Yes.
Well, the wire snaps, and then Joanna jumps Katniss and starts like cutting out of her arm.
Yeah.
And then one of the careers show up, and Joanna like runs off, and the career follows after her. And then Katniss eventually comes to. She's like super groggy, but she makes her way back to the tree where PETA and BT are supposed to be. And she doesn't find PETA, but she finds BT like laying on the ground, like he shocked himself. Yeah. With the force field, and she's about to shoot somebody. I think she's about to shoot BT.
I thought it was Brutus.
Was it Brutus?
One of the careers, yeah.
I thought Brutus was already dead, but what? She's gonna shoot somebody.
Finnick.
Yeah.
It's Finnick.
Right, yeah, because Finnick comes up. Yeah.
And then she gets like a flashback to Haymitch being like, remember who the enemies are. Yeah. And she's like, oh, it's the Capitol. The Capitol are the enemies. And she takes the arrow and she wraps the wire around an arrow, and then she shoots the arrow at the force field, which then blows up.
It's very similar to like the Back to the Future thing where they have to run the wire to the lightning bolt at the exact same time the car hits it. Except for now it's firing an arrow at the same time that a lightning hits the tree, so that it hits a force field with electricity.
And then the force field explodes, and Katniss gets scooped up by a hover jet. Yeah. And then it kind of like...
And then it ends with her and Haymitch fighting, right?
Yeah, I mean, the hover jet is not actually the Capitol. No. The hovercraft is being piloted by... Who's all there?
Plutarch. Haymitch and Gale.
Yeah, Gale is there.
And they picked up Finnick too, right?
Yes. Yeah, they picked up BT. And BT.
Finnick, BT, and Katniss. And Katniss is like, where's Peter? And they're like, we didn't get him.
Peter gets caught by the Capitol.
And Joanna.
And Joanna gets caught by the Capitol. And so do...
Brutus and Anabaria.
And whatever her name is. The
Razor
other
teeth.
Career. Yeah.
She has her teeth filed into points.
She's the best. Filed into points because she ripped somebody else's throat out with her teeth during her competition.
Hell yes.
And the book ends with like, oh, Peter's been captured by the Capitol. Also, District 12 has been destroyed. Yeah. End book. Yep. And that's it. That's the end of the book.
Okay, so let's we're already at 29 minutes, but let's get into our feelings on the book. Yeah. I don't have a lot to say about this one. I wish the games were longer.
That's the best part about this whole book is the games. And this is the last game you're ever going to see.
To me, it's almost like, I feel like Suzanne Collins like almost doesn't get what makes the Hunger Games really good. And that's kind of the games and like the whole atmosphere of the games and how like twisted they are. Because she's more focused on like the capital politics and the
aspect of it,
the uprising.
But that's what these books are about.
I know, but I would
But they're called the Hunger Games. They're not called the dystopian uprising games.
I would honestly read an entire series that's just Hunger Games, like
Yeah.
just the games. Like it POV switches every chapter, and you go through all the contestants' like point of views, and you don't know who wins till you get to the end of the book. And
That would be
like,
amazing.
That would be
Yeah.
so good. I would read a
Yeah.
whole series about that.
Hell yeah.
Like, yeah. The only thing I remember about book 2 before rereading it was the clock, which was
The clock,
the
yeah.
coolest thing ever.
This is my favorite book of
Ever?
the 3.
Oh.
Of the 3. No, not ever.
Can you imagine?
Wow. No.
This book feels like it's just a transition between
Yes.
1 and 3, so not a lot happens.
And see, and to me, I like that transition. I like all the characters it introduces. I like the way it affects Katniss and her relationships. I loved that cliffhanger, as terrible as it was. I had all 3 books, so I didn't have to wait for Mockingjay to come out to get the rest of the story, because had I had to, I would have hated that cliffhanger more. But I didn't, so privilege. But yeah, I don't know why I like this one so much, but yeah, I don't know. I liked kind of getting away from the kids killing kids as the focus of the books, because I mean, like you said, Danny, I would absolutely read and totally love a book of every single Hunger Games since the beginning of time, but these are not about that. These are about the taking down a corrupt and horrific regime. So, you know, I'm kind of glad that there was more of that, because it made the world feel really real and really whole to me.
Yeah, I don't know. I enjoyed this book. I think I liked the first book better,
Yes.
but for me it's just because I really like the atmosphere of the games, and I like not like it as like, oh, I would watch this, but like it as in like, this is horrible but also very compelling. And in this one it's like the games are almost better but so much shorter, and it's like, oh, if it was like the same distribution as the first book, the same pacing as the first book, I think I would like it.
The first
Probably
300
better.
pages of this book is just politics, and the last 100 pages is the Hunger Games. So the last 100 pages of the book are the best part of the book.
You guys don't find political intrigue to be compelling?
Not at all.
Oh. Well, that'll explain our opinions then.
Well, for me, like, Snow is just such a cartoonish bad guy that I have a hard time being like, ooh, he's a political threat. It's more just like, he's a
political
twirling his
threat.
mustache and throwing his
He's
rose
a
on you.
political threat who is clearly in the process of dying, so he's not going to be a threat much longer.
Yeah, I like how that's emphasized several times.
Oh.
How, like, he's constantly spitting up blood and stuff, and it's
He
weird.
is in the process of dying,
Yeah.
and Katniss is like, this man's going to ruin my whole life.
We will get into some of that in Mockingjay.
You just
Oh,
gotta
yeah.
hang on a little bit longer, Katniss, I promise.
So next week we're doing Mockingjay,
Yep.
and we're gonna go heavy into spoilers for that one. So if you have not read this series, I would recommend reading it. It's a YA novel. Like,
it won't take you long.
No.
yeah, I think, like, I read it over about a week, but I only was reading like maybe an hour a day. Like, I wasn't putting a lot of time into it, and I was still able to finish it in under a week.
I read The Hunger Games in one sitting, and I read Catching Fire in 2 sittings, because I started it at like 9
Yeah.
o'clock at night and was done at 8 o'clock the next morning. Like, I went to sleep reading it, and then I woke up and finished it, kind of thing.
Yeah.
I started Mockingjay on Friday at about 11 o'clock, and then finished it today around 11 in the morning. So yeah.
So you can easily do this for next episode if you're listening.
Yep.
And we're gonna go into spoilers, and there are some crazy things that happen in Mockingjay. Oh my
boy.
god. So tune in next week. Danny, where can people find us?
People can find us on Facebook, iTunes, Spotify, YouTube at Literary AF. There's a Literary AF podcast or Twitter account, which is just Literary AF Pod. My own Twitter account is Danny_reads.
Don't follow Danny.
Wow.
Follow me.
Follow Danny, and then follow me at CatFaceGargoyle.
And follow me at, I was gonna say like a famous Twitter account, but the first thing I thought of was Donald Trump, and I don't want to promote
Oh,
his
no.
Twitter.
Don't do that.
No.
Just mute me at real Donald Trump, and your life will be so much better.
Report him for whatever you can.
Mute and report Sheldon at
Real Donald Trump at Twitter.com. Yeah, so thanks for listening, and catch us next week when we mock some Jays.
Bye.